My name is Nevin Lawrence. I am the Integrated Weed Management Specialist for the Panhandle of Nebraska. So why are weeds an issue in dry edible beans? Well, the number one issue is yield loss. There's actually been a series of studies done by the Weed Science Society of America that's published about every 10 years in a number of crops. So corn, soybeans, dry beans are also included in there, where we just look at what is the average yield of dry edible beans when we control the weeds, and what is the average yield when we don't control the weeds. And so if we don't control the weeds, it's about a 70% yield loss across the United States and Canada. And at that level, it's not economical to grow beans. So if we don't control the weeds, we don't have beans to eat. In addition to that, the way that dry edible beans are harvested, if you have weeds in the field at harvest, it tends to plug up the combine and prevent harvest. And the other thing is, which is different from a lot of field crops, is dry edible beans are something that unless you're buying canned beans, if you're buying a bag of beans that you might cook at home, you're actually buying those based on how they visually look. And so it's kind of like buying an apple. You're gonna buy those largely on how pretty it is. And a lot of the weeds we have can cause issues with how the dry beans look after harvest if they're present in the field. And so we want to not only produce large, healthy beans for consumers, we also want to have ones that are visually attractive. This study behind me is a dry edible bean weed control trial. We're looking at a few soybean herbicides to see if they have potential to control herbicide-resistant Palmer amaranth in dry edible beans. Palmer amaranth is the number one weed control issue for dry edible beans in the high plains, and so that would be in Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas as well, where there's some dry bean production, and starting to become an issue also in Wyoming. So within this geographical region, Palmer amaranth is the number one weed control problem. We've done research to quantify what season-long interference is, or season-long interference can contribute to yield loss, and what we've seen is 4 plants per 1,000 square feet is enough to have a noticeable economic drag to a grower. And left uncontrolled, we're getting about 90% yield loss from about 2 Palmer plants per yard of row. That's enough to make it so that it's about 90–95% yield loss. Palmer is a big problem, and it's a production issue that we don't solve. We're going to have a hard time growing beans in the future. But we've got a lot of tools we can use, including crop rotations, potentially some different herbicides, cover crops, and there's a lot of tools we still have to investigate. And so I'm optimistic we'll be able to find something that's going to be sustainable in the long run. My favorite part of my job is interacting with the actual producers. So what I try to do is I try to do practical research to solve their issues. And with the Dry Bean Commission, it is they fund a lot of our research. They're funding the study here behind me, and the funding is determined by the growers. So you submit the research you want to do, and the growers have to find value in it. And if they do, you can get some funding for that research. And so these are problems that the growers bring to me, and then I have to then go back to them. And there's kind of a process with that, and then we can go out and hopefully get a solution for them. So it's really rewarding in my career to be able to identify a problem they have, figure out a way to kind of investigate it from a scientific standpoint, demonstrate that these solutions may or may not work, and then see them adopt those practices. It's a big circle of coming from the growers to the research, back to the growers, and it's a very rewarding process. And that's really great about the Dry Bean Commission is they are working hand in hand with the researchers as producers.